Hey guys, welcome back. So Sunday is the big game, and in today's video I am showing you 4 of my favorite appetizers to try. If you're interested in learning more, stay tuned. Okay, so the first recipe we're doing is the seafood spinach artichoke dip. I had to do a voiceover because my kids were extremely loud in the background and you couldn't hear anything I was saying. But basically what I'm doing is going over all the ingredients that you would need for the seafood artichoke dip. Even though some of the ingredients aren't right there on the table, I'm still going to have a list for you. I'm going to go over the list and then I'm going to have a list for you in the description box with the measurements. First thing you'll need is fresh or frozen spinach, whatever your preference is. With the frozen spinach, you don't have to do the blanching process. Just make sure that your frozen spinach is what's that word? Make sure that the frozen spinach is defrosted and drained. You don't want wet spinach going into your seafood artichoke dip. Now, if you're using fresh spinach, you're going to see in a few minutes that we're going to blanch the spinach, and you'll see how that process goes. You also need artichoke hearts, cream cheese, mayonnaise, Parmesan cheese, shrimp, crab meat, dried basil, garlic. You can use a garlic clove or the garlic paste, whatever your preference is, and salt and pepper to taste. Alright, so now moving over to the stove top, we are getting ready to blanch our spinach. And that's just when you put your spinach in boiling water and let it shrink down in size. And once you let it shrink down in size, you're going to move it over to a bowl with ice and water. So like ice cold water to stop the cooking process. Okay, so this is me taking the spinach out the iced cold water. I'm just squeezing it to try to get all the excess water out because you do not want wet spinach in your dip, as I mentioned previously. So I'm just getting all the spinach that I can grab, putting it on a paper towel, and I'm going to blotch it. So once I finish taking the spinach out the bowl, I'm just pressing down on my paper towel. I'm getting more paper towel because it went through the little bit of paper towel that I had. Okay, so once I'm finished with that, I move on to the stove top because I'm going to make the spinach. I only did like a tablespoon of butter, let it melt down completely. The only thing that I would suggest you do with just shrimp is not overcrowd the pan like I did. I know better. For some reason, I think I was just in a rush trying to get it done. I also seasoned my shrimp with Old Bay, garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, and pepper. And I think I sprinkled a little bit of salt on it. Not a lot because the Old Bay has a lot of salt to it as well. But I'm just trying to flip my shrimp over once they turn pink. And another thing is you don't want to overcook your shrimp as well. Okay, for this next step that you're about to see, I am not cooking my crab meat. I'm just putting it in the pan so that it can absorb the remaining flavors from the shrimp. And now I am putting all the ingredients that I mentioned earlier in the bowl. Here at the last minute, I decided to throw in a little bit of mozzarella cheese. Now, once everything is well combined, you're going to move it to a baking dish. I did spray the bottom of my baking dish before adding all my ingredients into it, the mixture into it. Now I'm putting mozzarella cheese on top. I do go back and add a little bit of Parmesan cheese. You necessarily don't have to use mozzarella cheese. I just wanted to use this blend. You can use whatever cheese you want. Make it into your own. Have fun with it. So once you finish putting the cheese on top of your dish, make sure your oven is preheated to 350 degrees. I don't know why I didn't mention this earlier, but yes, make sure your oven is set to 350 degrees, preheated, and then you're gonna add the dish. Then you're gonna let it cook for 25 to 30 minutes, and afterwards you're gonna bring it out, and it's gonna look just like that. So now moving on to my buffalo chicken dip. I'm adding cream cheese, ranch dressing, and Frank's hot sauce. You can use whatever hot sauce you want. You can use mild, medium, hot, whatever your preference is. I don't like a lot of hot stuff, so I'm using medium heat. And I added the chicken last, and I'm just mixing everything to well combine. Again, preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Add it to a baking dish. You can spray your baking dish. So my cheese preference for this particular dip is Colby and Monterey Jack and mozzarella. I just love how they blend together. So this is what your dip will look like once you take it out the oven after 30 minutes. If you want it a little browner, you can keep it in there. I wouldn't say no longer than 5 more minutes. Alright, now moving on to my steak and cheese sliders. So this is the third appetizer. I'm just cutting my steak into like thin slices. Now that my steak is cut, I'm seasoning it with Montreal steak seasoning, salt, onion powder, onion powder, and garlic powder. Now that the steak is seasoned, I'm setting it aside and I'm putting oil in my preheated cast iron skillet. And then once I add the oil, I'm going to add some butter to it as well. And then once the butter finally melts down, I am going to add green peppers. I'm actually adding green peppers and the tricolored peppers, you know, the yellow pepper, orange pepper, red pepper. I'm adding all of that to the skillet, as well as onions. And then I'm going to season it with some Montreal steak seasoning and A1 sauce. That's the way my mom cooks her steak, so I learned from her. I learned that from her. So that's what I'm doing. Alright, so now that the peppers and the onions cook down, I'm going to take that and put it aside, and I'm going to cook the steak. So what I did here at the end is I added butter to the sliders as well as some sesame seed buns. And once I finish showing you all this, it goes straight into the chicken. That's the last bit of the appetizers. You know, you can't have a Super Bowl anything without fried chicken wings. So I'm just seasoning the flour and the chicken. And then once I finish seasoning chicken, you know, of course, you dump it into the flour and you put it in the deep fryer. Make sure you don't overcrowd your chicken. Even if you're not cooking it in a deep fryer, you're cooking it on top of the stove or an electric skillet, don't overcrowd your chicken. Now, I do apologize in advance. I do not have any footage of me taking the chicken out of the deep fryer. I'm not sure what happened. I think my camera stopped recording. But as you'll see in a few seconds, you'll see the whole entire layout. Alright guys, so this is the entire layout. This is all the appetizers that I fixed. I also fixed some French bread that you can use instead of chips to use in your dip or dip in your dip. I don't know how you say it, but yeah. That's it. You can see I tried to be fancy and sprinkle parsley on top of everything. It came out like a complete fail. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.
Tell me why'd you have to go and drive me so crazy?